Spider-Man 3 used groundbreaking CGI to enhance its action and characters. This video will highlight every moment a CGI character appears, exploring the techniques that made these effects possible. This scene uses CGI-enhanced reflections to seamlessly integrate Peter's image into the screen, ensuring natural lighting and angles. It highlights his growing ego, foreshadowing his transformation under the symbiote's influence. The meteorite crash was originally meant to be more elaborate, with John Jameson bringing the symbiote from space, but this was changed for budget reasons. The scene uses CGI for the falling meteor, including its glowing descent and dust impact. The symbiote's emergence was animated using fluid simulations, ensuring its movement felt organic and unsettling. The fight between Peter and Harry began with a fast-paced, CGI-assisted stunt, where Harry swoops in on his goblin glider and grabs Peter off his motorcycle. This sequence required digital doubles to maintain fluidity during the high-speed movement. The goblin's flight dynamics were enhanced using CG physics simulations, making each turn and dive feel weighty and precise. As the fight progresses, CGI-enhanced stunt work allows for high-speed collisions and environmental destruction. When Peter and Harry crash into a narrow alley, they slam into walls and bounce off obstacles, a combination of wirework and CGI augmentation. The Goblin's technology, including his glowing blade and retractable weapons, was fully digital in certain shots to allow for seamless interaction with Spider-Man. Lighting and texture ensured that the CGI elements matched the real environment, making the effects appear natural. One of the most visually striking CGI moments occurs when Peter dodges Harry's attacks in slow motion, with pieces of debris flying around him. The motion blur and particle effects emphasize the force of each impact, while digital doubles allowed for acrobatics that would have been impossible with practical stunts alone. During the aerial battle, the entire city environment was digitally created. The VFX team built a fully CGI version of New York using modular building models. This allowed the filmmakers to create dynamic camera angles and high-speed action sequences without the limitations of filming on real locations. Even details like streetlights, fire escapes, and clotheslines were digitally rendered to maintain realism. The aerial fight between Peter and Harry was one of the most technically challenging sequences in Spider-Man 3. It was the first action scene filmed and took over 6 weeks to complete. Because Peter wasn't wearing his mask, the VFX team had to develop new facial capture technology to digitally map Tobey Maguire's expressions onto his CGI double during high-speed moments. To make the intense moment where Harry crashes into the alley after being clotheslined look more realistic and impactful, the filmmakers used a combination of practical and CGI effects. A professional stunt performer was forcefully pulled into a breakaway wall on set, carefully simulating the initial impact with precision. Then, a fully CGI Harry was used for the high-speed tumbling and rolling, before cutting back to James Franco lying injured on the ground. This seamless mix of real stunts, wire work, and digital enhancements made the brutal crash feel visceral and dynamic while keeping the actor completely safe. The scene where Flint Marko escapes the police and falls into the testing facility was filmed using a mix of stunts and CGI. Thomas Hayden Church did most of the running himself, but a stunt double performed the fence jump. The moment he falls was enhanced with CGI to blend into the pit seamlessly. To make the escape look more intense, the fence was built slightly lower to help the stunt flow naturally, and the dark lighting added a sense of danger. This scene effectively builds suspense, leading directly to Sandman's transformation. The scene where Flint Marko painfully transforms into Sandman was one of the most challenging and visually complex visual effects sequences in Spider-Man 3. It took over 2 years of intensive development and required a custom sand simulation system to realistically animate the way his body disintegrates, collapses, and reforms. To ensure realism, the VFX team closely studied real sand movement in various conditions and even experimented with materials like ground corncob and crushed walnut shells to perfectly replicate its texture and density. The heartbreaking moment where Sandman desperately tries to pick up his daughter's locket, but his fragile fingers crumble away into dust was a key emotional beat. inspired by classic monster films. Thomas Hayden Church's performance was fully motion captured, with animators using his subtle expressions and movements as a reference to give Sandman a truly lifelike appearance. The combination of particle physics, motion capture, and highly detailed rendering made this scene one of the most advanced and ambitious CGI sequences of its time. The transformation scene of Flint Marko into Sandman was not only visually groundbreaking, but also deeply emotional. The filmmakers wanted the audience to sympathize with Marko, showing his struggle as he realizes his new form. The scene is enhanced by Christopher Young's hauntingly beautiful score, which blends soft orchestral swells with eerie, atmospheric tones. The music adds to the tragedy, making the moment feel almost poetic rather than monstrous. One impressive detail is that the VFX team designed each grain of sand with procedural animation, meaning the way his body crumbles and reforms was not manually animated, but instead controlled by physics-based simulations. This made every movement unpredictable and organic. To make Sandman's texture look realistic, real desert sand was scanned under different lighting conditions, ensuring that reflections and shadows reacted naturally in every frame. The soft, warm lighting used in this scene was deliberately chosen to contrast with the harsher lighting used in Sandman's later fights, symbolizing his tragic origin. Interestingly, the sound design team used recordings of shifting gravel, crushed leaves, and even powdered glass to create the effect of Sandman's body moving and disintegrating. These layers of sound added to the realism of his transformation. At the end of the scene, when Marko finally regains his humanoid shape, he once again reaches for his daughter's locket, holding onto it as if it is the last remaining piece of his humanity. This moment, combined with the emotional score, reinforces that Sandman is not just a villain, but a man burdened by love and loss, desperately trying to hold on to his past life. This scene remains one of the most complex CGI sequences in Spider-Man 3, with animators spending weeks on small moments, such as how his hand tries to hold shape but collapses into grains of sand before reforming. It set a high standard for visual effects in superhero films, proving that even CGI-heavy sequences can be filled with deep emotion and meaning.